Hey, Johnny Drive-By here. Today I've got the Richard from Tales of the from the Church, and well, you're in China, right?
Yeah, I'm in Shanghai, China, man. I'm on the other side of the world from you. You're in central time, right? Where are you at?
Minnesota.
Oh, you're in Minnesota. I've never been to Minnesota actually. I'm from Texas though.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah,
But yeah,
that
it's
explains the fundamentalism that you grew up with then, huh?
oh yeah, man. It's, Bible Belt. I grew up in the deep South, so I actually grew up in a town called The Colony.
Okay.
Um which it sounds kind of like a cult. It has very just sort of a controlling ring to it, The Colony. But that's where I grew up, close to like Dallas. I was born in Plano, so I was raised in an ultra conservative Southern Baptist home in Dallas. So I spent 20 years of my life in Texas, and then I moved to Baltimore. And then when I was 30, I started traveling. So I ended up in China, and I'm kind of stuck. I'm stuck in Shanghai waiting for my wife's immigration paperwork to go through so I can go back to the United States.
Oh yeah. Isn't there something where if you're gone from the U.S. too long, you lose your citizenship?
I have no idea. It's not for me though. My wife is
Gotcha.
Chinese. I met my wife in Shanghai. She's from Beijing, or she's from close to Beijing. And when I started traveling when I turned 30, I'm 36 actually. I turned 36 like a week ago. And I started traveling when I was 30. I just dropped everything and decided to travel the world. And I ended up meeting a girl in Shanghai during my travels. And it wasn't my plan. I didn't really want to get married and have kids, but I ended up getting married and having a kid. So now I don't want to live in China forever. I'm not really very fond of China, and so we're waiting for my wife to get through the immigration process for the U.S. so we can all go back to the USA.
I'd say it'd be interesting kind of to see the culture there, but then but yeah, I don't know. They got a weird diet, don't they?
Well, it's not just the diet. It's just, when you're in a place for a long period of time that's drastically different from your own culture. It people talk about culture shock, but culture shock is actually kind of it's like a form of depression, and it's very difficult to assimilate into a new culture. I could go on for a long time about that, but my problem with China is just I've been here for too long. And it was interesting for the first year that I was here. It was very interesting, and it was good to, I was a lot more open to everything back then. But I'm just sick of it, man. I just want to travel more. I want to. It's not even that I don't like China. I just want to travel more. I want to travel around the States, travel around Asia. I want to go to Europe. I've never really been to Europe other than Moscow. I went to Moscow a couple of years back. I just want to travel more. I want to. It's not even that I don't like China. Hey, can you hear me all right?
Yeah, I can hear you. I can hear you just fine. I had a
Okay, cool. I had a weird sort of echo. I just
yeah.
heard my own voice come
I
back
was
to me.
bringing up the other screen to try and do something here, and then it started playing. Sorry.
Oh, okay. Okay. No, it's okay. There's sometimes because Google, which we're using right now to stream this, is blocked in China.
Oh,
So in
really?
order for me to yeah, yeah, Google, Facebook, Twitter, they're all blocked in China. The
Wow.
Chinese government, they don't like uh they don't like anything that has the potential to disseminate subversive information, so they kind of
Yeah.
they block a lot of stuff. So I have to use a VPN, a virtual private network, in order to connect. So sometimes the connection, especially back, on the other side of the world, is choppy. Sometimes these live streams are a little bit choppy for me because of the distance and because of the fact that I'm using a VPN.
Yeah. Yeah. They probably that's interesting because Like they kind of accept Confucianism and Buddhism and stuff like that in China, but they're mainly the government is atheistic, isn't it?
Yeah, but it's not a theological position.
Yeah,
It's
North
more
Korea, I
of
would argue, is a theological position, but yeah.
well, I mean, it's just the idea that you shall have no other gods before the Chinese government.
Ah,
And so for the government, it's better, it's easier to control people with sort of I mean, China is moving toward the point of a cult of personality right now, where the person who was the president has basically put himself into the position of president for life. So they removed term limits for his political position, and I don't know. That's kind of scary. I think that a lot of people here are very uneasy about it, because term limits were a good thing for China. I think term limits are good for any
yeah, absolutely.
any political system that's trying to move toward you know away from dictatorship and toward your more democratic process. But whatever, it's not my country. There's a lot politically that I don't really understand about China, but I do know that religion interferes with the government's ability to control people, and so it's better for the government to at least maintain an atheistic position, but it's not a theological position, it's a political position.
In a sense, I mean, China, I would argue, is more of a atheist, but some of the dictatorships like North Korea, that's pretty much a theocracy because they worship him like a god. They, in fact, they're any dissent, it's very real dissent. It's very real torture if you dissent from the government there.
Right, and I think that sort of is an anomaly, at least in today's geopolitical climate. The North Korea thing. North Korea is the last remaining real, like you said, I guess theocracy, or the last real remaining dictatorship on the earth. And it's bizarre. I mean, if you really look into some of the stuff that they push, it's really bizarre. And they're good friends. I mean, they have a sort of a weird relationship with China, but China has been instrumental in propping up North Korea, and they do a lot of business with them. They've I think there's been some weapons that have been sold to them as well. So China's been instrumental in sort of propping up, I think, North Korea as long as they've been. I think without China, North Korea would have collapsed a long time ago.
Oh, Shane asked which VPN you are using on your recommendations for it.
I'm using a VPN service called ExpressVPN, which is probably the most well-known in China. There are some other ones. There's one called Astral. I've read that the best way to set up a VPN without any interruptions is to buy your own server, like in Singapore or something, and someplace that's close, and configure it to act as a VPN. I don't know how to do that, but that's what I've been told is the best way to go about if you're going to be in China or whatever, any place that blocks internet access for a long period of time. But I've used ExpressVPN for, I don't know, as long as I've been here, and I haven't had many problems with it.
So what got you into starting a YouTube channel? And it's just, I mean, obviously you deconverted and decided to say something about it, but what made you want to go to the video thing like that?
Well, I've always been interested in making videos. I've been making videos and music, and I've been an artist my whole life. But my main reason for starting this channel, I think, is because I had a baby daughter 2 years ago. She turned 2. Sorry, I have a perpetual upper respiratory condition because of the pollution here.
Yeah, that's right. There is pollution, bad pollution there, isn't there?
Oh yeah. It's lucky I'm not in Beijing, where the pollution is far worse than it is in Shanghai. So I had a daughter 2 years ago. Well, I still have a daughter, but she was born 2 years ago. And I thought a lot about my own childhood. Like, I'm 36 years old, and when you have kids, you tend to sort of look back at the things that your parents did and think about the legitimacy of those things and what could my parents have done better, or what could I do better in order to make the whole the evolutionary process of parenting better. I pass on good things to my kid, and maybe she will see the mistakes that I made, and if she has kids, she'll eliminate some of the mistakes that I made. So we hope that every generation has better parents, right? Every new parent is better, hopefully, than the parent before them. They recognize the mistakes that were made, and at least they make some kind of attempt to correct those mistakes. I was, like I said, I was born and raised in an ultra conservative Southern Baptist home, and my parents, I was indoctrinated into Christianity very, very young. So my whole upbringing up until I was about 14 years old was just, I was constantly bombarded by the Southern Baptist brand of Christianity. And it definitely affected me negatively. I think it affects anybody negatively. I think some people escape. Some of the people that I knew growing up escaped from it, and a lot of them didn't. Most of them didn't. I would say like 70% of the people that I knew growing up in the church are still in the church and are raising their own kids in the same way that they were raised. And that's their decision. And, I respect their right to, whatever, to raise their kids however they want. But for me, I feel like moving forward, my child, my daughter, is kind of my gift to the world. If I leave the world with anything, that's positive, it is that I'm raising my own child without the bondage and chains that I was raised with, which is the religion, the theology. And I think, I'm not raising her atheist. I'm just raising her open, empty slate. I'm not giving her any theology. Yeah. And I'm sorry.
I can tell you that's great advice. That's great way to do it. My mom is an atheist. My grandma is an atheist. My great grandma is an atheist, and they just raised me to make up my own mind. And I think that's one of the best ways you can do it. And that's awesome, man.
Yeah, and I think the problem is not what my parents believed. The problem is what they told me that I had to believe.
Yeah.
So I started my channel, one, as a means of therapy. I feel like it's good to get some of this stuff off my chest. I would have done it a long time ago. I've been thinking about starting this channel for years to tell some of my channel, by the way, is called Tales from the Church, and it's just me telling stories about my time in the church, and it's mainly focused on the decade between 1985 to 1995, during the era of the Satanic Panic, and some of the weirder things that were going on in the world of the church at that time. It just bred really odd things in every industry had this kind of Christian anomaly in it that pushed this weird Satanic Panic stuff. That's kind of what I grew up in. So there was the music industry had their own little scaremongering Christian stuff. The literature industry, books, there were these crazy Christian books by people like Bob Larson, or the people that wrote, well, I don't want to get into the Satanic Panic thing because I've talked about that on some other shows, but there was just a lot of, for every form of secular entertainment that existed at the time, there was a Christian counterpart to it, and it was just batshit insane, just bizarre stuff. And that's what I was raised in. And yeah, I started. The only reason that I didn't start the channel before is because I've always been afraid of how my parents might react. My parents are both still alive, and I was always afraid of how my parents might react to seeing that channel. And I realized, man, I'm 36 years old. Well, 35 when I started the channel. I started it like a month and a half ago, 2 months ago. And I'm 35. I'm on the other side of the world. You know, it's time to grow up and stop being so concerned about what my parents think, you know? Hey, I can see you now.
Yeah. I don't have much lighting in here though. Hold on a second. There, now you can kind of see me, right?
Yeah. You're a musician.
Oh yeah. I try anyway. Yeah, I'm all right, music, and I do all that crap. You know what? If it wasn't for music,
cool.
I would have went insane a long time ago.
Yeah, oh, it's the same for me. That's a big part of my story actually, is a lot of the conflict between me and my mom was about music, was about the music that I was listening to. You know, the conservative Christians, you know, in the late 80s and early 90s, they were very strict about music in particular, more than anything else, more than books or movies or, you know, whatever other things were available, like toys. The thing they were the most strict about, at least from my experience, was music. But it's interesting because you said you were raised without any kind of belief, so you never really had to deal with any of this indoctrination, right?
I just, you know, like seeing, obviously, you know, it's all around in the culture, but I just never. And my mom was someone that she would say, "Well, the worms are just gonna eat me when I die." So I grew up thinking that that's probably part of life. You know, that's just life. So I never really. I mean, I said, you know, people would say, "Yeah, well, blah blah blah." God, no, everybody was doing it, but it was like I just was never able. I was never told that hell is going to be a place that I'm going to burn in hell or anything like that. So but probably about 2 years ago, or 3 years ago, is when I came across young Earth creationists in comment sections and went, I can't have that. You're talking about science here, and you're just wrong. So it's kind of what made me get active, because I'm a strong proponent of not having creationism or intelligent design being taught as equal to science. It just isn't.
Well, it shouldn't be taught at all. I mean, it shouldn't be taught as anything other than theories, and that youngism is paranoid conspiracy nonsense. Not enough people. You know, it's like if you really do believe in creationism, then you basically believe that every scientist in every field, academic in every field that is even remotely related, is blatantly lying to everybody. Geology, chemistry, you know, basically all of the scientists are just outright lying to everybody. Like the biggest conspiracy theory, really think about it, and it's the most sort of accepted one. And look at themselves as a little bit here. Theorists. Oh, sorry. I'm just saying, man. Those are the messy theories. Don't even see themselves that way. It's the most messy theory that exists is young Earth creationism. You all right? Can you hear me?
I can hear you, but you're roboting quite a bit on there. So,
oh, am I?
Yeah, it was just
it goes in and out.
Yeah, it's still doing it. I don't know if I don't think it's me. Let me see. Not even sure. Let's see, bandwidth here. Can I change that?
I don't know. I can hear you all right though. I can hear.
Yeah, it must be your bandwidth or something from your end or whatever. But it's like it's going like this. It's the waves, not particles. Yeah, you're breaking up.
I don't know if I can change my band. I can't do anything in here.
No, you sound better.
I'm still breaking up.
No,
Yeah, it's just,
kind of.
Hold on. Let me see. Let's see. Okay, what about that?
That sounds okay right now. We'll see. Keep on talking. What were we talking about?
Okay.
Younger creationists.
Yeah, I was just saying those people are man. That's the most mainstream conspiracy theory that exists. A lot of
damn it.
Oh man. Okay. Let's do this. Okay.
I'm gonna ask
so
you
now it's audio only. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, now it's great.
Okay, we'll just do it like this. You don't get to look at my beautiful face. But,
I like the church lady though.
Thank you. I love that thing, man. I was like, I thought, man, I need to take a picture for my channel, and I just took a picture with one of those Chinese apps that the women here like so much. And the first picture was this one, and I thought, oh, that's beautiful. That's perfect, Yeah. So yeah, creationism, man. I don't know. The whole thing is just, yeah, it's blatantly just anti-science. Those people are conspiracy theorists, and they don't look at themselves as conspiracy theorists, and I just like, there's people, and the big problem with stuff like that. Oh, sorry, my friend is watching and saying that we should work out the tech stuff beforehand. You can hear me, right?
I can hear you now. It's all good.
Okay. So, the thing about, young earth creationism is it's not just fringe conspiracy theorists out there. There are people who actually are trying to, like, they changed the name of it from creationism to intelligent design. And these people they're trying to pass it off as legitimate science. So if you go to a place like Answers in Genesis and you look at some of the stuff that Ken Ham says, or the people, I don't know if you've ever been to any of those museums like the Ark Encounter or the Creation Museum, but
I have not, but I'm very well aware of them.
Yeah, I've been to the Creation Museum when I was younger. I never went to the Ark Encounter. I think that's newer, but those are just people that are passing off bullshit. I mean, conspiracy theory as legitimate science, and it's dangerous because the type of people who are willing to consume that and are willing to believe that are people that don't really have, they're not educated people. They're not people that are really intelligent enough to think critically about the information that they're given. They're suppositionalists. I mean, they're starting with a position, and they're just taking any information that they can and trying to fit it into their position, as opposed to caring about what is real.
Yeah. Oh yeah. Whatever's comfortable. That's what they say. Yeah. You're preaching the choir here, man.
I want to say something while we're on the subject of conspiracy theorists. So anybody that has been on social media within the last couple of days has probably seen this, that InfoWars, Alex Jones's platform for disseminating conspiracy theories, has been taken down. It's been taken off of Facebook. I think permanently banned from Facebook, permanently banned from YouTube, and I believe the Apple Store took them off of their whatever platform they were on. And I wanted to say, just because it's been on my mind, I've seen that a lot of people in the skeptic community, it seems like the majority of them are pleased, and they are celebrating this. And I feel like people need to step back and look at the long-term implications of this, that as a society, in the United States, people are skeptics. I mean, people who are supposed to be thinking critically are celebrating this kind of censorship. I really feel like this is a bad thing. Like, I'm not I'm not a fan of Alex Jones as anything other than a provocateur and an entertainer. I think he's good at what he does. You know,
Yeah, yeah.
he's a and I could respect him as an entertainer. I don't agree with anything with most of what he says. And I think he's just like, he's basically a sleazy snake oil salesman that peddles conspiracy theories to people who are not very bright. But I really feel like we should not be celebrating censorship of any kind, even if it's censorship from a private company.
I agree.
And I was, that's good. I was talking to people on Twitter last night about it, and it's not a popular opinion, and I just really don't understand it. Like I don't understand why people are celebrating this, because that kind of censorship, like the main point that I got from people was, well, it's okay because it's not the government that's doing it, it's private corporations that are doing it, and that makes it okay. Like if it were the government, it would be one thing, but it's Facebook, it's YouTube, so it's okay. But I mean, come on, that's so disingenuous, because Facebook, YouTube, those services are, I would argue, have more power over public opinion than the government does now.
Absolutely. Yeah. Or actually, it's not even them anymore. It's the algorithms taking over.
Right. But you know, the point is, like, I feel like people should be scared. This is not a good thing. Censorship is never a good thing. And like, you know, the answer to a lot of the problems that we have in the United States right now, politically and socially, is education. People need to be educated. You know, if we're going to take things away from people and say you don't have a platform, I think we should be taking things away from the church. I think we should be taking things away from these fringe groups that are indoctrinating children. Like, I feel like adults should be able to consume whatever that they want to consume, you know.
I agree.
And they should be given the respect of, like, look, this is an adult, they can do their own research, they can decide whether or not they believe bullshit. You know, there's all kinds of bullshit on the internet. There always has been. You know, before the internet there was bullshit. There have always been con men like Alex Jones or Ken Ham.
Well,
but
the problem with the internet now, though, is the bullshit spreads a little bit faster. Exponentially faster. So it's, yeah.
Well, yeah, that, and it creates these kind of bubbles, these pockets of these little communities where people are insulated from. Can you hear me all right?
Yeah. I said spot on. Spot on.
Oh, yeah.
Sorry.
No, it's okay. It's hard for me the audio cuts in and out, but yeah, I just wanted to say that. It has nothing to do with what we were talking about, but it bothers me, you know, when people, it's kind of like, you know, oh, well, censorship is good as long as it's censoring stuff that I don't like. And that's just not a position that I think any reasonable skeptic should take, especially in the United States.
Yeah. I mean, every human beings are just tribal. I mean, that's part of our social nature, you know, but if you have something that's invisible, incorporeal, doesn't speak for itself, and people believe that, and they just take the authority of some guy that says he's seeing this entity, that's wrong to me, because that just creates a space for, because people are gullible and they will believe a charismatic leader, and that's just the way it is. And
right.
To do it with the truth out there is a way better way to go, if you ask me.
Yeah. I mean, no, I mean, I have no problem with the churches existing in the United States. I was talking with my wife about this last night, and my wife is Chinese, and she does not really understand the religious thing, because she was raised without religion. She wasn't raised like an atheist, but she was just raised without religion, because for a lot of people here, religion is just not that important. It's not really something they think about. There is Buddhism here, and there is government worship here as well. But for the most part, people don't look at religion in the way that people in the West look at religion. So, you know, it sort of has shaped in the United States. It shaped every part of culture. It shaped politics. It shaped,
Oh yeah.
Holidays and customs, and it's justified some of the more nasty things that we've done. But my wife doesn't understand that, so I tell her these stories about my time in the church, and they just blow her away, because she doesn't understand how somebody could be motivated to behave in such a way,
Hey, I live here, and I still don't know how that can happen. I mean,
but you were never indoctrinated. So I think for you, it's like you can see it from a different perspective than me. I think regardless of whether I had been indoctrinated, I still wouldn't believe, but I probably would not be as angry about it as I am now. I don't think I would be. I don't know. I'm not an activist. I'm more of an entertainer. I set my channel up to entertain people, but my main objective is to show people what the kind of damage is that's done through religious indoctrination to children. That's kind of the message of my channel, of my content. But what was I saying? I was going back to the, I was homeschooled from second grade on. So my mom took me out of the public school because she was afraid of me having this secular influence in my life. And she took me out of school and she homeschooled me, but she was very inconsistent with my homeschooling. So sometimes there were weeks, even months that went by where I didn't do anything. My brother also, I have a younger brother. He's 6 years younger than me. And she didn't really teach us. My mom has some mental issues, and she was not consistent, So sometimes we would have new curriculum, and she would say, okay, we're going to do this new curriculum. And it was always Christian curriculum. I don't know if you're familiar with some of the Christian. I think I'm going to do a video about, I have a video on my channel right now about curriculum, about some of the weirder comics in this one curriculum that my parents used.
I saw that video. Where they, it's pretty, it's alarming.
Yeah, and that's the kind of stuff that my mom would use. So in me having this homeschool experience, there were a lot of things that I did not learn, and there were a lot of things that were kept from me intentionally. Science, biology, evolution, the things that a normal kid would learn in public school, I did not have access to. And even a lot of those things were strawmanned by my parents and by the church and by the curriculum. Evolution is evil, and people who believe in evolution are evil. And so growing up in that kind of environment, I did not really have I didn't have a chance to learn about reality. And it was very detrimental to the formation of my intellect, and even just emotionally and spiritually. I was stunted as a result of that. And, if we're going to be censoring people, and we're going to say, hey, it's okay to censor people, and, we're going to be celebrating censorship, I think that is what should be censored. I think that, I don't know how you would go about doing it, but I don't think that people should be able to homeschool their children, at least without the proper credentials. And I know that's not a very, I know that's not a popular opinion, and I know that a lot of people would disagree with me on that.
It'd be hard to implement that. It would be hard to implement it just for a lot of logistical reasons. I mean, I know what you're saying though, because all they have to do is just pass this little test or whatever once in a while when you're homeschooled, right? To make sure that you're keeping up with the curriculum or keeping up with the rest of the kids your age or whatever, fitting in the bell curve.
I think that the rules are different now, but in Texas, when I was a child, there were basically no rules. You could just homeschool your kids. My mom had no credentials to teach us anything. And there were from what I remember, there were never any authorities that came to the house to make sure that we were learning. So I don't think there was any kind of, I don't think that ever happened, so my mom just had free reign to teach us whatever she wanted. That may be different now. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm not sure.
When I was a kid,
I've never done it. I don't have kids, so
yeah. But I don't know, man. I think that's, when you send your kid to a public school, there are not random people that are picked up from the street that come in to teach your kids. The people who teach your kids have gone to university and have been educated and have learned child development and have learned methodology in terms of teaching. They have experience and knowledge, and they know how to teach whatever it is that they're teaching. The schools require this, and the reason the schools require this is because they don't want the kids to be taught by people who don't know what they're doing. That's how education works. It's the same thing when you get into higher levels of education. You don't have a professor that read a Wikipedia article about biology teaching biology. You have a person that studied throughout their entire academic career biology, and they teach biology. So if there's such strict standards in the States, in the public schools and even in private schools, I don't think there's much of a difference to require those same standards to people who teach their children at home, because those children are going to be the future, or at least a part of the collective whole of the future of humanity, the future of the United States. And there are a lot of these people who are ultra conservative, like preppers and people who have bunks and people who are preparing for the apocalypse, that are teaching their children all manner of just crazy shit. And this should be a concern, I think, for any reasonable person, not just because it's child abuse, but also because these kids are going to grow up and they're going to be the ones that are leading the free world. They're going to be the ones making political decisions. They're going to be voters. They're going to be in the workplace. And this is not just a fringe movement. I mean, this has gotten bigger and bigger as time has gone on. Yep. And sure, there are people who homeschool that are soft, that homeschoolers that aren't, ultra conservative or fringe conspiracy theorists or whatever. But still, I mean, I just think is it really okay to put a child at such a disadvantage? I really don't think it is. If we're going to be censoring people, we should be.
I personally think it's abuse to have a child not be taught correctly because he's not going to fit into society. Well, not all children, but so when you raise someone like that, they got a good chance like not fitting in and being an outcast, or even being your next loner or whatever, mass murderer or something like that. I mean, I know I'm going to extreme there, but oh, by the way, Shane from the chat asks, where in Texas are you talking about?
Well, I was raised in a place called the Colony, but that's the Dallas-Fort Worth Metroplex. I was born in Plano. So close to Dallas, about a half an hour drive away from Dallas. The Colony is close to Louisville, Carrollton, Frisco, Plano. It was, when I was a kid, it was a town with one road in and one road out. It was kind of like just this isolated community filled with Baptist churches. I think there was one, there were a couple other churches. There was a Mormon church, and there may have been a Lutheran church, but for the most part, it was a very Southern Baptist town. It was a small town. Everybody knew each other. So it was kind of like, yeah, that's the kind of environment that I grew up in. So I couldn't really go anywhere or do anything without being watched by other people who would report back to my parents, and they all had the same belief. So, that's the same kind of insulated community that I was referring to before, that are online. You just get a bunch of like-minded people and stick them together, and they're not confronted with anything that conflicts with their beliefs. And it just creates madness. It just creates stagnation.
Yeah, I agree. I can't help but agree with you on that.
But yeah, so that was my upbringing. And I don't know, I used to be a libertarian. I used to be a lot more conservative than I am now. And I understand the I understand that freedom is important, and I'm an advocate for freedom. It's the reason that I'm against censorship. I think people should be able to say what they want to say. But when you get to dealing with children, you know, I don't believe that a child can consent to a theology when they're little, when they're babies, when they're toddlers, or when they're 5, 6-year-old kindergartners. And so there's a fine line, you know, between saying that you can't teach your kids this thing and deciding, you know, where is that line that you draw. It's the same thing with like spanking, you know, like there are people who advocate for spanking their kids, but there's somebody that's got to draw that line between what constitutes just discipline and what constitutes abuse.
I mean, how do you discern that though? You know, that's a tricky one. That's really tricky. I mean, you're talking about people telling people how to raise their kids, and the ultra conservatives would probably really get on you about that.
Right. And that, I mean, that's okay. You know, I think what we're talking about when it comes down to it is education. And my stance is not that people should not be able to raise their children with a theology. I think it's wrong. I think it's immoral to raise a child within any kind of theology about invisible people and hell and, you know, with so much fear. But what I'm saying is that whatever, raise your kid however you want, but I think that your kids should be required to go to school and be taught by accredited teachers. Like the public school system in the US is not perfect. And I've worked in the public school system. I used to be a special education teacher. So I'm not ignorant about what goes on in the public schools. They're not great. Some of them are better than others, but they are vastly better than what I experienced growing up, which is I didn't learn anything. You know, so life was difficult for me to deal with social, you know, to deal with social issues, you know, having friends and keeping friends. And because I was just, like I said, I was in this insulated sort of community.
Yeah.
So I'm not advocating the government telling people what to do with their children. I'm saying that I think that kids they deserve equality, not deserve. That's not even the right word. They are entitled to a quality education and to be taught reality in the school system. And whatever, maybe that reality conflicts with what they're taught at home, but at least they're given an opportunity to see that there are different ideas about the world and about, you know, just everything. I think that's really how things should be. I think your kids should have to go to school, just like I think people should be forced. And man, 10 years ago, I would have argued with myself about this, but I think people should be forced to have their kids immunized as well. I think
but when it comes to immunization, though, that is a danger to me and us around us too, because if they start spreading the disease, that can mutate and make it detrimental to me, you know.
Right, but so is having a lot of children with no access to reality. I mean, raising a bunch of so that's my position, and you know, not just because of the kid, but also because of the greater good of society.
Yeah, you know, Wonder Lady had this. She does these questions for atheists or whatever, and one of her questions a while back, and I answered it, was should there be a state standard in the education system? And where my position is on that is I don't think there really should be some sort of a standard, you know, like you're saying or whatever, that they shouldn't be homeschooled and stuff, but there should be the only standard that I can say of that should be taught is good critical thinking skills, because I think even with people trying to indoctrinate you, that would still allow them to be able to keep that mindset where they're able to discern like what's true and false. And I think we could teach people how to think critically and figure out what's true and false better. I think that would be very helpful to prevent false beliefs.
Right. Yeah, and I agree. That's the basis of education. It's the basis of learning is that you I think kids should not be taught what ever. I mean, unless you're dealing with things like mathematics or absolutes, kids should be taught how, which is, how to find why. Kids should be taught how to access information. They should be taught how to think critically. They should be taught how to find information. They should be taught how to reason why. But when kids are raised with just this is what you should believe, that's when you have a problem. Like when you this is how we believe, and this is also how you should believe, and it's just raising mindless hordes of people that are not thinking for themselves.
Yeah, and mindless hordes ready to bow down and worship the God before, at the end of your whatever your eternal bliss. Oh, Shane said he knows what you're talking about. Waco here, he says.
Oh yeah, I was actually in Midlothian, Texas when the Waco thing happened. I was a kid.
Yeah.
And I don't know much about that now, but I do know that a lot of people on the more fringe conspiracy side see Waco as being a tragedy, that that the government was like firebombing those people. And I mean, I don't know enough about that story to make a judgment about what happened. I just remember being a kid and watching it on TV, and the guy was burning, and my parents' position was that he was bad because I believe he was a Seventh-day Adventist, I think, right?
Yeah, I think so. But yeah. Yes, the Ellen White cult or whatever you want to call it.
Yeah, they were. I think they were Adventists, but that was sort of a cult of personality for what was it, David Koresh.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, absolutely.
But yeah, so I don't know, man. I find myself, my beliefs tend to change a lot. They go back and forth. I think beliefs should be malleable. I think people should be open to the idea of accepting of changes to their belief, of accepting new information.
Beliefs and that's when your knowledge changes. When you achieve more knowledge, your beliefs should change accordingly. I mean, at least that for me, right. I look at it.
Yeah, definitely. So I don't know. That's the difference, I think, between like science and theology, or between evolution and creationism, is that one changes to adapt to new information, and the other one is obsessed with keeping things how they are.
There's no dissent in that Bible.
Oh man.
Yeah, it just what pisses me off is sometimes when I see freaking creationists, the young earth ones or whatever, just totally trying. I mean, I've come across some of them that actually sound that they have all the words and stuff. They have the scientific words that they can put out there, and basically it's just vomiting on their keyboard and posting it up to the comment section. And I got pissed off for a little while about it, but then it's like, yeah, you know what? I don't think they're being nefarious. I think they actually believe what they're typing. So that was
The problem with that, though, is that you're right. I don't think that a lot of them have bad intentions. Maybe some of them do, but I think most of them don't have bad intentions. They believe that what they are fighting for is legitimate. The problem is the people that they are getting that information from are evil people, are bad people. Ken Ham is a bad person.
Yeah,
for real. Like, no joke. He's not some, like, he can come off as just kind of stupid, and he repeats the same points over and over again, despite the fact that they've been refuted to him repeatedly. Ken Ham has been in the Answers in Genesis organization for 2 decades, over 2 decades. I think it's like 22 or 23 years. And he has had debates with people. He had a highly publicized debate with Bill Nye. Bill Nye did not come at him with anything new that Ken Ham had not heard 1,000 times before. So all that he's doing is he's just ignoring the facts and continuing to regurgitate the apologist rhetoric about all the creationist talking points, which, by the way, never changed. They always have stayed the same because they don't adapt to change, So the same stuff that he was saying 20 years ago, he's still saying now. And I don't think he's stupid. He's a multi-millionaire. He was able to get $100 million to build that stupid replica of Noah's Ark. I mean, he's not a dumb man. He's a con man. I mean, plain and simple. He is preying on stupid people, and he's taking government money. A lot of that money that he built the Ark with, dude, that was government money. I mean, people should be more concerned about that than they are. So, a lot of those people you're talking about, they're not bad people, but Ken Ham is a bad person. And the people that they're getting that, a lot of it is, I would say probably 60-70% of the stuff that you see that seems somewhat coherent from young Earth creationists is stuff that they got from Answers in Genesis. Because that's the organization that is attempting to sound scientific. They're trying to take creationism and make it into this scientific thing.
Discovery Institute. Oh, we got to have that. They come up with these names or whatever to make it sound science-y. What was I going to say? I kind of forgot. I lost my train of thought. Go ahead.
Oh no, I don't like those guys, man. Those guys really bother me. Ken Ham blocked me on Twitter for calling him a con man. And there's other.
I bet anybody that comes on here on this chat or whatever has probably been blocked by Ken Ham that I know.
And Ray Comfort too. Ray Comfort blocked me. I don't know.
One of the ones that I don't really care for is not Ray Comfort. William Lane Craig. And there's also, she's kind of just an idiot right now, but not an idiot. She's an idiot because of her apologetics, but SJ Thomason or whatever that on Twitter there, she's always yapping around there or whatever and just saying the dumbest things.
Yeah, I've seen her posting. I feel like she is not even serious. Is she serious?
She's I think so, but it is so freaking retarded that you have to go, really? And you're an educator? You're in the you're in the university level educating? No, this can't be true.
Yeah. I see some I follow some people on Twitter that are that I'm pretty sure are just satire accounts. There's one guy, he blocked me. He called Pilt Down Superman. Do you know that guy?
I'm not familiar with it.
His I think his thing is called Question Evolution or the Question Evolution Project or something. And I really did believe that that his account was a satire account. I really did. And until I saw that he had a YouTube channel, and I watched some of his videos, and he's being serious.
Yeah.
And I just was like, I couldn't believe it. And he blocked me. He blocked me on Twitter for something. I don't remember what it was, but yeah, it's really scary when you can't tell the difference now between the people who are serious and the people who are trying to make fun of the people who are serious. I follow a couple of Donald Trump satire accounts, like parody accounts, and they have the same picture, that Donald Trump uses, and a similar a similar name. So you have to double check to see if you're reading his real tweets. And honestly, I can't tell the difference.
Yeah.
And it's so scary when you look at something and say, is that really Donald Trump? And I could just easily believe that he really would say that stuff. This is the world that we're living in now. You can't tell the difference between a joke and somebody that's serious. That's almost like, in the political world, it's like parody is it's useless now. Like, we're in a post-parody world. It's a post-satire world where there's no differentiation. You can't make fun of the people. They're so stupid that you can't even make fun of them anymore.
I guess for me though, I'm almost thinking that this is just the beginning of a good thing though. That we're just not used to this, because what we're moving out of is the hierarchy sort of authoritarian kind of a universe that we've been all kind of growing up in our society. And I think what's happening is that we're starting to learn how to think. We are learning how to think for ourselves, but slowly. I know I'm just speculating here, but it's just wishful thinking. But I think we're coming out of a thing where we have to look at authority figures and rely on the person on top of us to make decisions for us like that. We're starting, because the internet gives you got every bit of information you want right there in front of you now. If you want to learn about it, you can learn about it right now. And but I think we're just not used to it. We're stepping into this new part of an era in our civilization. Whether we survive or not, that's a different story.
Well, yeah, I will never see that though. I mean,
Yeah,
you know, I'm 36. And you know, it's questionable as to whether my daughter will see it, because you're talking about something that a lot of people are going to have to be dragged away from, kicking and screaming. It's a violent change.
Yeah.
You know, moving away, because I think the reason that religion exists, other than the fear of death, is that people need the comfort of having, you know, order and rules and regulations, and people need that comfort. I mean, they don't need it, but they think that they need it, because it gives them, they find peace in it, because they don't have to. It's like there's always somebody, right? And you also, when it comes down to it, you can rely on somebody else to make the critical decisions. But at the end of the day, I mean, we're all going to die. I just, you're talking about post-government though. I mean, maybe it's beyond my comprehension to be able to see that, what that would look like. But if it is brought on, it will be brought on by AI, I think. I mean, you know, I really do think that the direction that we are headed with technology, and I tend to bring this up every time I go on someone's show, I think AI is the future. I mean, it definitely is.
It's not hard to see that becoming the next step of evolution and species and or whatever, but it might not be a conscious being, but it's possible that an artificial being, whether it has conscious or not, will keep on going because we do know how to create that evolutionary aspect into something now, into a machine. Yeah, it'll be interesting. We definitely won't be there to see that.
No, but it could happen pretty fast.
Oh, yeah.
There's an article it's a 2-part article. I think it's on a site called Wait But Why. I think that's what it's called. And it's about artificial intelligence. And it's basically, it explains the process that we would need to go through to actually get to the point of having real artificial intelligence, self-replicating machines, and some of the possible consequences, written by someone far more intelligent than I am. Oh man, I'll send you the link if you want to like stick it in the description section. I'll send it to you later.
Okay.
But it's scary. I mean, it could go either way, you know. It could be the next step, like you said. It could be the next step in our evolution in a positive direction.
We don't need you, and just say screw you. It's
some kind of a system.
There you go.
Yeah, that's capable of basically emulating the same sort of responses and thought patterns of whoever the brain was taken from. And if you had something like that and you had it connected to the internet and it had access to all manner of information, it would be capable of the same kind of thoughts. It would be capable of the same things that a human brain is capable of, but it would be much more right, exactly, much faster. Yeah. So you hook up a human brain to a processor, you know, and to a fast processor and the internet. God only knows what kinds of things would come of that. And I don't think there's a whole field of science that's just trying to predict what the outcome of something like that would be, you know. And yeah, I think I'm hopeful. You know, because I think the outcome of a lot of that will be intergalactic. We start traveling around the universe. We build spacecraft that can go to other planets. We take people to other places and start to colonize other planets. I mean, that's where this technology eventually would be heading if it goes into the right direction.
Yeah, yeah, I think so too. I mean, it all depends upon whether or not it sees us as part of its survival and benefit with that, and that's basically because we will have artificial intelligence that will have that kind of ability to decide things like that. I mean, it's just a matter of time. And
Sure.
yeah, but yeah, I'm not scared about it. I ain't scared. I'm 50, so I'll be gone here soon. I'm just kidding.
I'm not scared. I like the idea that maybe my daughter will spring have the potential to explore a much greater area than what I have accessible to explore. I'll never see Mars. I'll never step foot on another planet, but I can travel by plane and I can go from the United States to China. I can get on a plane and go anywhere in the world, which is something that people couldn't do 100 years ago. I mean, not as fast, not without danger, So the the advancement of technology, like the gap between what is not possible and what is possible, is very quickly becoming smaller and smaller and smaller. And so eventually with artificial intelligence, it will get to the point where our society is progressing at a pace that is difficult for us humans right now to even conceptualize.
Yeah.
Every day we're learning as much as it took us 100 years to learn prior to having that technology.
And it's exponential too. And there's the big thing that humans really can't comprehend is the exponential factor of the way things grow.
Right.
Because 100 years ago, we looked at the population of the Earth or whatever as whatever we hit our first billion, whatever. Now we're at 7 billion. And they would have never even thought of 7 billion when they hit 1 billion. But now imagine doubling 7 billion, because that's what's going to happen here with the exponential thing. And then think of doubling that 14 billion then after that. And it keeps on going quicker and quicker. So yeah.
Yeah. And we have some issues with overpopulation. I think I see that probably, definitely more than you do, because yeah. So I see what that looks like. And a planet with 8 billion, 9 billion, 10 billion people is not really sustainable. So the next step in evolution is definitely space travel. There's a book by a very, very underrated author, a science fiction author called Olaf Stapledon. Do you know that guy?
I've heard the name. I don't.
He's a British author, or he was a British author, and he wrote one of my favorite books of all time is called Star Maker. And Star Maker is basically, it was written in 1937, or it's published in 1937, and it's a history of the human species over 2 billion years. And it's great. And it tackles a lot of the things that we've been talking about, just the symbiotic relationship that humans have with nature, and what could possibly come about a reasonable progression of technology, the unity of people and space travel. And it's a really, really great book. I don't understand why this author is not more well known. He wrote some fantastic books. He wrote Last and First Men, which is also a great book. But yeah, Star Maker. I recommend anybody that's interested in a speculative science fiction about, obviously speculative fiction about where humanity or life could go with the advancement of technology, should read that book.
Okay. Talking about government intervention. I don't know what. So
What,
Shane said,
government
"I'm all
intervention?
for AI as long as I can have sex with it."
I think that dude, I mean, obviously that's going to be a part of it, right? I mean,
Oh yeah,
we're
that's going to make it happen quicker.
but the only reason that sex has become is that we evolved and that mammals evolved to take pleasure in sex is so that we will continue to procreate. Yeah. So eventually there might be a time when sex is no longer necessary for procreation. I mean, that's not something that we'll ever see, but you know, right now we're sort of still primitive. I always think about this when I'm sitting at my desk and I have all of these wires. I got wires connected to my modem and my wires connected to my router and all these electronic wires just everywhere, piles of wires. And it always makes me think, man, we still really are primitive, aren't we? Because we're not a wireless society yet. At some point, all of this stuff that I have is going to be able to fit onto something very, very small. Just like when I was a kid, my first computer was a Commodore 64.
Oh, I remember those.
Yeah, and that was like the computational power of that thing was just minuscule compared to what I can do on my smartphone now.
I had an Atari 400, and when I first got it, it had 8K bytes of memory on it, and then I upgraded to 16K bytes. So yeah,
man, was that big black one?
No, it was the 400 had like the plastic keyboard on it. Didn't have it had the like the plastic thing over it. Then it was like touchpad or whatever or something like that. But it was do you remember the Atari 2600 game console at all?
I remember I used to have a 2600. Yeah, I remember that thing. Well, but there were two of them.
Yeah, then they came out with the Atari 400 computer, and they used cartridges rather than floppy disks. But I mean, Apple kind of beat it out right away or whatever in the beginning, way back then. That'd be like 82, 83, somewhere around there, I think.
Oh man, yeah, I was born in 82.
Well, there you have it.
So, yeah, but the point is like that we still are primitive. I mean, we still are fighting wars over invisible people. We still are, there's still cultures where it's common to just rape random women. There's still that very brutal kind of animalistic drive that humans have. Yeah. And I think people walk around and they tend to hold themselves up as being like, oh, we're this, we're civilized and we're the most, we're like the pinnacle of advancement. And they forget that evolution is a process and we're just in part of that process. Evolution doesn't necessarily lead to somewhere good. It just is a process. And so we're like still very primitive. I mean, we still are. We definitely have so much room to progress, and we are capable of understanding our own path, our own evolution. We understand to a degree how evolution works. We understand to a degree how the brain works. And so we sort of have the ability to put ourselves on whatever path that we want to be on and try to progress in the right direction. And that's a good start, but we're still just primitive apes killing each other over invisible sky fairies. And so we have a lot of room for improvement. I think it's really bad to sit back and say, oh, well, we know everything there is to know now, so let's just stop, which is what religion is. We know everything. So not only should we stop, we should just stop, and we should force other people to stop too,
Yeah, I mean, that's what religion is. It's like this is the way, and there is no other way. Believe it or suffer the consequences, and that's most of that book is about.
Right. So
no dissent. No
dissent. Some religions at least are better than others, though. Like in the States, you're sort of inundated with the Abrahamic religions, but there are other religions that at least are a little more reasonable, or can be a little bit more reasonable. It's funny, in China, I always thought about Buddhism as being kind of a, like, this sort of atheistic religion when I was younger, before I traveled. But really, in China, Buddhism is just another commercial thing. It's just another business, like the monks. Really, the monks just make money. They have cell phones. The churches, they sell incense. So it's just, that's kind of they don't have the same stronghold on society that Christianity does in the States, but it still uses people's beliefs to make money. I think that it's like that everywhere.
Well, yeah. I mean, money's part of our thing for survival. I mean, if you don't make money, you're probably not going to be able to afford food, and that kind of gets that way. But yeah, no, I mean, there's some sort of some parts of Buddhism, because I'm really familiar with Buddhism. My great grandmother was always interested in that philosophy or whatever. I call it a philosophy, not really a religion, but it does have some religious aspects to it. I mean, it does have the reincarnation thing, which is whatever, and they kind of take the Buddha. So there's different parts of it that think Buddha is the enlightened God one, or godlike one, or something like that. But
he was the enlightened one.
Yeah,
but he was one of many Buddhas. I spent the better part of a year in Kathmandu, Nepal. That was the first place that I went when I started traveling. And I spent a month in Lumbini, which is the birthplace of the Buddha. And I spent a month at a monastery doing silent meditation. So it was this was about 4.5 years ago. And it was nice. It was a place where you can just go, you can stay as long as you want. They didn't ask me for any money. They fed me every day, and I did, basically, it's 1 hour of walking meditation and 1 hour of sitting meditation all day. You do it until midnight, and then you go to sleep. You wake up at 4 o'clock in the morning. You eat breakfast. You do more meditation, you eat lunch, you can't eat anything after 12, and you're just totally silent all day.
What?
And I did that.
Bob Seger? Sorry, I had to go there.
Well, no. Well, it wasn't Kathmandu that I did this. It was Lumbini, which is like an 8-hour bus trip away from Kathmandu. And honestly, I had a very good experience there. It really did help me with a lot of the stress that I had been going through at the time. It put a lot of things into perspective. And it wasn't necessarily Buddhist. I mean, it was a Buddhist place, and there were monks there. And they practiced a form of meditation that was Buddhist in origin, but there was no indoctrination. There was no theology taught. It was just, they just let you come in and meditate. And I had a lot of respect for that. So I can see the positive aspect of a religion like that. Like you said, it's more of a philosophy. And the good thing about Buddhism is that you can take what you want. Can you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Okay, cool. I'm sorry, I couldn't hear myself. The good thing about Buddhism is that they encourage you to take what you want and leave what you don't want. So you can kind of take different aspects of the religion, and that's sort of suitable according to their philosophy. And I think to extend beyond that, you really, as a human that doesn't have a religion, you can sort of create your own ideas about the world around you, about, how you look at things. I mean, everybody does that anyway, but you can take things that you like from any religion. You can take things that you like from any philosophy, and leave what you don't like. And you can do that while also being an atheist. You don't have to believe in God. You don't have to even, there are, there's Greek mythology, and of course there's like the allegorical stuff with like the creation mythologies. The Christian creation mythology is very similar to the ones in the Mahabharata, the Hindu mythology, or the post Veda Hindu mythology. And you can take what you like. and that's okay. You know, like you don't have to adhere to any specific belief system. I think a lot of people don't understand that, like, you can enjoy and appreciate the allegory that's contained within theology and within religious texts without being religious, you know?
Yeah. I've seen something in the chat here. Rice and
Yeah.
Bean saying something. Are you saying you don't believe people are allowed to be wrong?
Am I saying I don't believe that people are allowed to be wrong?
I think he's talking from before, a little while ago. So
tell Rice and Beans that he or she needs to be more direct. I need more than that. Am I saying that people are not allowed to be wrong in what context? Rice and Beans
saying that you think something is wrong, so others shouldn't be able to do it because he thinks it's wrong. That's insane. That was a little bit later in his comment. Go ahead.
Okay, I know who that is, and we've had this conversation before. So I don't think that people should not be
able to homeschool their kids is what he's talking about.
No, I don't think people should be able to homeschool their kids. And he knows that. He knows that I think that. You know, and it's because of how dangerous that it can be when people that are insane, or people that don't have any grasp on reality, or people that are building underground bunkers and believe the world's coming to an end, that those same people can isolate their children without any interference from the government or from any regulatory agencies, and teach their children insane things in order to take the place of the education system. I'm not saying that people shouldn't be allowed to raise their kids the way that they want to. I'm saying that kids should be able to and be forced to. I'm going to use these really strong words, okay? Kids should have to go to school. Children should have to go and have an education. Yes, I believe that. And it's not about, oh, you can't believe it's not okay to be wrong about something. You can be as wrong as you want, but especially for kids that are raised in a home where they're being bombarded by religious indoctrination, there needs to be something that counters that they have access to. And kids that are isolated from education, they never have that, and that puts that child at a disservice, and it's a form of child abuse. So yes, I believe that children should go to school. They should have to go to school. They should have to be taught by people that have credentials to teach. Yes, you know what, I'm gonna double down on that. Rice and Beans. Thanks for watching though.
And Shane said he's going to be uploading something on his channel about Buddhism, and I can't find it now. Exactly what he said. A lecture series on Buddhism and Hinduism on his channel soon. So,
all right, cool. That I'll check it out. I'm very interested in both of those religions. I read a lot about. I read the Mahabharata when I was in Kathmandu, and I read some of the Vedic texts, and I'm interested in those religions, more in the history of them, and I like the sort of the mythology that goes along with them. I didn't realize how many correlations there were between Hindu mythology and Christian mythology. They have a lot of the same stories. They have similar creation myths. They have similar like a flood myth or a flood story. Yeah, I'm really interested in those. I like them a lot more than I like you know, the Christian stuff, probably just because I was raised in Christianity. And maybe if I wasn't, I could look at Christianity in a more allegorical way. But I think I can't really look at that religion or Abrahamic religions in general. I can't really look at them objectively because of my history, my past.
Yeah. What was I had a question here, but I can't. Go ahead, keep talking. If you
no, I want to talk to the chat people. The chat people. I can't see the chat.
Oh, you can't, huh?
No, I can't see the chat.
Can you see? I'll try and bring it up here if I can. Share screen.
No, I think I turned off everything.
Oh,
So,
you don't have it.
yeah, when we were having the technical problems, I shifted my bandwidth all the way to audio only.
Do you have the Hangouts window open?
It's much. No, I'm afraid to open any other windows.
Okay.
I have the Hangouts window open. Yeah, so I just see your.
I should be able to show the chat on it. I think.
Hold on. Let's see. Let me. I'm afraid to do this. Let me see if I can do it. Hold on.
Your Hangout window is open now. You can see it.
Okay, hold on. Let's see. Okay, I'm gonna go back to very low and see what happens.
Maybe I can do it. Let's pop the chat out.
Okay, hold on. My beautiful face should come back up. You can see me now, right? Are you there? No.
Now my computer's going.
Okay. Yeah, you know what? It's just this. I think it's the VPN. I think it's on my end. I have one window open and I don't want to mess with anything else because if I open another window, I feel like it'll just disrupt the chat. I wonder if finished now. What? Oh, I'm talking to. I tuned out for a bit. Whatever. Okay, you can hear me though, right?
Yeah, I can hear you just fine.
Okay, it says you're no longer presenting, but whatever. It might, you know what? Man, China is just such a difficult place to be. And you know what? It's actually pretty cool because we have not had the disruption of the construction, because there's always construction going on, and for whatever reason it stopped when we went live. So that's good. So the people who are watching, they don't have to listen to all the all the drilling and stuff. But yeah, I understand that somebody would be put off by the idea that the government should tell anybody to do anything. I get that. And I agree with that to a certain extent. I just feel like that children don't necessarily have the opportunity to speak for themselves and to think for themselves when they're young. And that's not fair. So that's my position, comes from that. It doesn't come from an authoritarian place. I don't like big government. I don't think that the government should have control over people's personal affairs, but I'm talking about protecting children. I'm not talking about controlling adults. I'm talking about protecting children. That's for any, I'm sorry.
To Europe. I've never really been to Europe other than Moscow. I went to Moscow a couple of years back.
Wow.
Sorry, I started up the window there. I was trying to get the chat up here.
That was crazy. That was so long ago that I said all that. I heard myself talking about Moscow. That was like an hour ago.
All right. There. Now I think you can see the chat and the.
No, I turned it back down because it doesn't.
About everybody here.
Oh, okay, cool.
Right in our stream. So, yeah, that's the thing about freaking Google Hangouts. It's kind of limited with what you can do with it.
Yeah, you can use OBS. I've been playing around with OBS a little bit, but I don't know enough about it. I can't use it well enough to actually go live.
I'm getting better with it, but yeah, it's a little more complicated, especially with Apple, because with Apple products, because the sound doesn't want to run through the stream, and you have to do a lot of extra rerouting the stuff to make it work. You got to turn your computer into a mixing board or whatever, your sound system into a mixing board, and then blah blah blah. Blah, blah.
Are you're using Apple?
Yeah.
Okay, gotcha. I think I have Windows 8 on this computer. I don't know, one of my laptops. Yeah, it's Windows 8.
Okay.
Yeah. It's old. It's like a 5-year-old laptop. But yeah. So I guess I could plug my channel.
Yeah.
If you guys, I know some of the people that are watching have already seen some of my content, and I've talked to on Twitter, and have seen some of the other appearances I've done on other people's shows. But my channel is called Tales from the Church. I only have 5 videos up right now. I think 5. Yeah, I think 5. But they're stories about my time in the church. The last story that I put up is my deconversion story, which is kind of about the process that I went through when I was 14 and I decided that I didn't believe what my parents believed. The video I put up before that is about the Christian musician called Carmen. Do you know who Carmen is?
Yes, I do. Yes, I do. I watched that video. I like the way you went into that, and it's yeah.
Yeah, you know what's really cool about that? Carmen actually followed me on Twitter right before I went to sleep last night. So really? I was about to go to sleep because I sent him a link to the video, like when I put it up a few weeks back. And I was about to go to sleep, and I see, like, right before I closed my laptop, I see, like, Carmen follows you. It was like 36 seconds prior. I was like, oh, that's so cool. Maybe he's watched the video, you know? That's so cool because he was my hero when I was a kid.
Oh, really? Okay. I guess I can see that because he was kind of doing that, trying to appeal to kids or whatever he's doing.
Yeah. I mean, obviously, the video I made is very critical of what he did and what he does, but it's cool that people that I admired when I was a kid, I can make critical videos about their work, and they might actually go and watch them. That's how cool the technology is now.
Yeah, it is. Well, you know what's really cool is, like, you're in China, dude. I'm in Minnesota. We're talking to each other, like, right next to each other. You know, that is cool to me.
It is really cool, you know, and we couldn't do this even like 15 years ago, right? I mean, how long has YouTube? Oh, with the phone, yeah, but we're broadcasting live. How many people are watching this right now?
I think there were 6 in there, but
oh, okay,
down to 4 now. We're probably going too long, and people are getting bored.
Oh yeah. We droned on. I tend to go on tangents. I have a hard time staying on topic, you know.
I guess you've been on topic though. I kind of, we were just talking about you actually, so just but I like to just sit back and listen to people talk. So this is an easy job for me.
Yeah. It's fun. I like to talk. I guess. You know, if we're gonna close, I guess my main I said this before, but my main objective, I guess my message is that religious indoctrination is bad for kids, and people should let their kids think for themselves. You should let your children be who they are, and you know, man, critically analyze the world that they live in and come to their own conclusions. Because you know what? They're going to come to their own conclusions regardless of whether you intervene or not. And the conclusions that they come to as a result of your intervention are not their own conclusions. They're your conclusions, or they're the conclusions that you were indoctrinated into. And so they're disingenuous. They're not real conclusions. You should just let your kids be, man. Just let your kids do what they, you know, let them be who they are and let them believe what they want to believe. And the world will be a better place when people have an education, an adequate education, and people learn to, like you said, to think critically and to question the world around them. And I think that anything to do with religion, especially the religion that's prominent in North America, is detrimental to that goal of having people be educated and keeping people thinking for themselves. So my main message is, you know, I guess what I want to show people is that religious indoctrination is bad for kids. That's my main message. It's a really simple message. It's not complex at all.
Yeah, well said, actually.
Thank you.
Everybody, if you have never seen his channel, Tales from the Church, you should go there and check it out. I will leave a description in the when the stream is uploaded after here. I didn't do that right away because I was busy working and the rain was coming, and I wanted to get a couple extra things done before the rain came. So I'm late. Yeah, here we go. You can
Oh
blame it
yeah,
on me.
that's cool. No, it's fine. Yeah, just yeah, check out my channel, watch my videos, tell your friends. I don't know.
He's got great rants. You got to check it out, guys. But anyway, thank you all for showing up here and listening to both of us rant on about fundamentalist bullshit. All right, take care, everybody.